Sarah Martinez had been planning this day for weeks. Her daughter Emma was turning 7, and like any loving mother, Sarah wanted to make it special. She had bought colorful balloons, wrapped presents in bright paper, and even ordered a custom cake with Emma's favorite cartoon character on top. The morning started like any other birthday should. Sarah woke up early, decorating the living room with streamers and setting up a small party area near the window, where the sunlight would make everything look magical. She placed the presents on the coffee table and hung a happy 7th birthday Emma banner across the wall. Emma was still sleeping when Sarah finished the decorations. The little girl had been so excited the night before, talking about her birthday wishes and asking if her friends from school would come to visit. Sarah had promised her a wonderful day, full of surprises and joy. But as Sarah stood in the decorated room waiting for Emma to wake up, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Usually Emma would be bouncing out of bed by now, running to see if any birthday magic had happened overnight. Sarah walked down the hallway toward Emma's bedroom, her heart beginning to race for reasons she couldn't explain. She knocked gently on Emma's door. "Birthday girl, time to wake up," she called softly. No response came from the other side. Sarah waited a moment, thinking perhaps Emma was just being sleepy. She knocked again, this time a little louder. "Emma, sweetheart, your birthday surprise is waiting." Still nothing. A cold feeling crept up Sarah's spine. She turned the doorknob slowly and pushed the door open. Emma's bed was empty, the covers thrown back as if she had gotten up in a hurry. But Emma was nowhere to be seen. Sarah's mind began racing. Maybe Emma had gotten up early and was hiding somewhere in the house, planning to surprise her mother instead. "Emma, where are you, honey?" Sarah called out, trying to keep her voice cheerful despite the growing panic in her chest. She searched every room in their small house. The bathroom, the kitchen, the living room, even the closets. Emma wasn't anywhere. Sarah noticed that the front door was slightly open, something that made her blood run cold. She always kept that door locked, especially at night. The neighborhood was just waking up as Sarah stepped outside, still in her pajamas and slippers. She looked up and down the street, hoping to see Emma playing in someone's yard or walking back from an early morning adventure. But the street was empty except for a few cars parked along the curb. Mrs. Johnson, their elderly neighbor, was getting her newspaper from the front porch. Sarah ran over to her, her voice shaking. "Mrs. Johnson, have you seen Emma? She's not in her room and I can't find her anywhere." Mrs. Johnson's face immediately showed concern. She had watched Emma grow up and knew how responsible Sarah was as a mother. "No, dear, I haven't seen her this morning." "When did you last see her?" "Last night when I tucked her into bed," Sarah replied, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Today is her birthday." She was so excited. She would never just leave without telling me. The older woman put a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Let's check with the other neighbors. Maybe she went to play with one of her friends early." But as they knocked on door after door, the same answer came back. No one had seen Emma. No one had heard anything unusual during the night. The little girl had simply vanished. By now, other neighbors had noticed the commotion and came out to help search. They looked behind bushes, in garages, and even in the small park at the end of the street. Emma was nowhere to be found. Sarah's hands were shaking as she realized she needed to call the police. This wasn't just a case of a child wandering off to play. Something was terribly wrong. As she dialed 911, she looked back at her house where the birthday decorations were still hanging in the window, waiting for a little girl who might never come home to see them. The 911 operator's voice was calm and professional, but Sarah could barely focus on the questions being asked. Her mind kept spinning with horrible possibilities about where Emma could be and what might have happened to her. "Ma'am, I need you to stay calm and answer some questions for me," the operator said. "When exactly did you last see your daughter?" Sarah tried to steady her voice. "Around 9 o'clock last night. I read her a bedtime story and tucked her in. She was so excited about her birthday today. She kept asking if she could open just one present early, but I told her to wait until morning." "Is there any place Emma might have gone on her own? A friend's house, a favorite playground? Somewhere she feels safe?" "No, she's only 7 years old. She knows she's not allowed to leave the house without telling me. And the front door was locked when I went to bed. I always check it twice." Sarah's voice cracked as she spoke. The operator assured her that police officers were already on their way. Within minutes, Sarah could hear sirens in the distance getting closer to her neighborhood. She stood in her front yard, still in her pajamas, watching as two police cars pulled up to her house. Officer David Chen was the first to approach Sarah. He had been working missing children cases for over 10 years, and he could see the terror in Sarah's eyes. Behind him, Officer Lisa Rodriguez was already taking notes and looking around the property. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm Officer Chen. We're going to do everything we can to find Emma," he said in a reassuring tone. "I need you to show me Emma's room and tell me exactly what you noticed when you discovered she was missing." As they walked through the house, Sarah pointed out everything that seemed unusual. The slightly open front door, Emma's bed with the covers thrown back, and her favorite stuffed rabbit still sitting on the pillow where she always kept it. Officer Rodriguez examined the front door carefully. "Mrs. Martinez, you said this door was locked when you went to bed?" "Yes, I'm sure of it. I always check the front door, the back door, and all the windows before going to sleep. It's just been Emma and me since her father passed away 2 years ago. I'm very careful about security." The officer noticed something that made her pause. There were no signs of forced entry, no scratches around the lock, no broken glass. If someone had taken Emma, they either had a key or Emma had opened the door herself. "Has Emma ever tried to leave the house on her own before?" Officer Chen asked gently. Sarah shook her head firmly. "Never. She's always been such a good listener. Even when she's excited or upset, she comes to talk to me first. That's why this doesn't make any sense." More police officers arrived, along with a specialized team trained in child disappearances. They began setting up a command center in Sarah's living room, right next to the birthday decorations that now seemed heartbreakingly out of place. Detective Maria Santos, who specialized in missing children cases, arrived within the hour. She was a mother herself and understood the nightmare Sarah was living through. "Mrs. Martinez, I know this is terrifying, but we need to move quickly. The first few hours are crucial in cases like this." Detective Santos began asking more detailed questions. Did Emma have any health conditions? Had anyone been asking questions about Emma lately? Had Sarah noticed any strangers in the neighborhood? Were there any family disputes or custody issues? Sarah answered each question as best she could, but she kept thinking about how normal everything had seemed the night before. Emma had been happy, excited about her birthday, talking about the cake and presents. There had been no signs that anything was wrong. The detective also asked about Emma's father. Sarah explained that he had died in a car accident when Emma was 5. There were no other family members who might have taken Emma, no bitter custody battles, no threats from anyone. As the morning wore on, more neighbors gathered outside Sarah's house. The news of Emma's disappearance was spreading quickly through the small community. People brought coffee and food for Sarah, offered to help with the search, and shared their own concerns about safety in the neighborhood. Mrs. Johnson stayed close to Sarah's side, holding her hand and trying to offer comfort. "That little girl is smart and strong," she whispered. "She's going to find her way back to you." But as the hours passed and there was still no sign of Emma, Sarah began to feel a desperation she had never experienced before. The birthday cake sat untouched on the kitchen counter. The presents remained unopened, and somewhere out there, her 7-year-old daughter was missing on what should have been the happiest day of her year. By noon, the search had expanded far beyond Sarah's neighborhood. Police officers were going door to door, showing Emma's school photo to everyone they met. Local volunteers had organized into search teams, covering the nearby park, the woods, behind the elementary school, and every street within a 2-mile radius of Sarah's house. Detective Santos received a call that made her heart sink. The K-9 unit was on their way with specially trained dogs that could track Emma's scent. While this was good news for the search efforts, Sarah didn't understand why the detective's face looked so serious when she hung up the phone. "Mrs. Martinez, we're bringing in some search dogs to help us. They're very good at finding people, and they might be able to follow Emma's trail," Detective Santos explained carefully. Sarah nodded, grateful for any help. She had given the police one of Emma's unwashed t-shirts from the laundry basket so the dogs would have her scent. The thought of specially trained animals looking for her daughter gave her a small spark of hope. Officer Rodriguez had been interviewing Emma's teacher and classmates at the elementary school. She returned with information that puzzled everyone. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Peterson, said that Emma had seemed perfectly normal the day before. She had been excited about her birthday and had even asked if she could bring cupcakes to share with the class the following week. But there was one thing. Officer Rodriguez reported to Detective Santos. Mrs. Peterson mentioned that Emma had been talking about a new friend lately, someone she said she met at the park. The teacher didn't think much of it at the time, but now she's worried it might be important. This information sent a chill through the investigation team. A new friend that Emma's mother didn't know about could be a crucial piece of the puzzle. Detective Santos immediately called Sarah over to discuss this. "Sarah, did Emma ever mention meeting someone new at the park? An adult or another child?" the detective asked. Sarah thought carefully. "She did say something about playing with someone new, but I thought she meant one of the kids from the neighborhood. She plays at the park almost every day after school. I can see it from our kitchen window, so I let her go there alone for short periods." The detective made notes. "Did she ever describe this person? Give a name or say anything specific about them?" "Now that I think about it, she did seem excited about this friend. She said they told her stories and played special games. But Emma makes friends easily, so I didn't think it was unusual." Sarah's face went pale as she realized the possible implications. The K-9 unit arrived just as the afternoon search teams were regrouping. Handler Officer Mike Thompson had brought 2 German Shepherds, Rex and Luna, both experienced in finding missing people. The dogs were eager to work, their tails wagging as they sensed the urgency of the situation. Officer Thompson explained how the process would work. "The dogs will start at Emma's bedroom, pick up her scent, and follow wherever it leads. They can track scents that are several hours old, sometimes even longer depending on weather conditions." Sarah watched nervously as Rex sniffed Emma's shirt and then her bedroom. The dog immediately became alert, his nose to the ground, pulling Officer Thompson toward the front door. This confirmed that Emma had indeed left through the front door, just as everyone suspected. But what happened next surprised everyone. Rex led the team straight to the park where Emma usually played. The dog circled the playground equipment, sniffing carefully around the swings and slides where Emma spent so much time. Then Rex did something unexpected. He sat down and whined, looking confused. Officer Thompson frowned. "This is strange. Rex is having trouble following the trail from here. It's like the scent just disappears." Luna, the second dog, was brought in to double-check. She followed the same path Rex had taken, from Emma's house to the park. But she had the same reaction, confusion and inability to continue tracking from the playground area. "What does this mean?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Officer Thompson had seen this happen before, and the implications were troubling. Sometimes scents disappear when someone gets into a vehicle. The dogs can't follow car tracks the same way they can follow foot trails. Detective Santos felt her stomach drop. If Emma had gotten into a car at the park, either willingly or by force, the search had just become much more complicated. A vehicle could have taken Emma anywhere in the region by now. The detective gathered the search teams to share this new information. The focus would now shift to checking security cameras in the area, looking for any vehicles that might have been near the park around the time Emma disappeared, and interviewing everyone who lived near the playground. As evening approached on what should have been Emma's 7th birthday, Sarah stood in the park where her daughter had played so many times. The swings moved gently in the breeze, empty and silent. Somewhere out there, Emma was spending her birthday, away from home, away from her mother's arms, and away from the celebration that had been planned with so much love. The birthday cake at home remained untouched, the candles never lit and the wish never made. The sun was setting on Emma's birthday, casting long shadows across the neighborhood that had been buzzing with search activity all day. Sarah sat on her front porch, wrapped in a blanket that Mrs. Johnson had brought her, staring at the street as if Emma might suddenly appear walking up the sidewalk. Detective Santos approached with news that made Sarah's heart race. The security camera from the convenience store near the park had captured something important. The footage showed a small figure walking toward the park at approximately 5:30 in the morning, just as the sun was beginning to rise. "Mrs. Martinez, we need you to look at this footage and confirm if this is Emma," Detective Santos said gently, setting up a laptop on the porch table. Sarah leaned forward, her hands shaking as she watched the grainy video. Even in the poor quality image, She could recognize her daughter's distinctive pink pajamas and the way Emma walked with a slight skip in her step. But what shocked Sarah most was how purposeful Emma looked. She wasn't wandering aimlessly or appearing lost or frightened. She was walking with determination, as if she knew exactly where she was going. "That's definitely Emma," Sarah confirmed, her voice breaking. "But I don't understand. Why would she leave the house so early? And why was she still in her pajamas?" The detective studied the footage carefully. The timestamp shows 5:33 a.m. This means Emma left your house in the very early morning hours while you were still asleep. The question is, what made her want to go to the park at that time? More troubling was what the camera captured 20 minutes later. Emma could be seen in the distance near the playground, but she wasn't alone. A figure approached her, someone too far away and blurry to identify clearly. The person appeared to be talking to Emma, and after a few minutes, both figures moved out of the camera's range. This was the last confirmed sighting of Emma. Officer Rodriguez had been working with the technical team to enhance the video footage. They managed to get a slightly clearer image of the person who approached Emma, but it still wasn't enough to make a positive identification. The figure appeared to be wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap pulled low over their face. "Based on the size and build, we believe this is an adult," Officer Rodriguez reported. "But we can't determine if it's a man or woman, and we can't see their face clearly enough to create a useful description." As darkness fell, the search teams regrouped at the community center. Volunteers had been searching for over 12 hours, covering hundreds of acres of woods, fields, and neighborhoods. Everyone was exhausted, but no one wanted to give up looking for Emma. Sarah refused to leave the command center that had been set up in her living room. She sat surrounded by police officers, detectives, and FBI agents who had joined the case. The birthday decorations were still hanging on the walls, creating a heartbreaking contrast to the serious investigation happening below them. Detective Santos received a call that changed everything. A woman named Janet Williams, who lived about 10 miles away, had seen the news coverage about Emma's disappearance. She called to report something that had been bothering her for weeks. This woman says that for the past month, she's noticed a man in her neighborhood who seemed to be paying unusual attention to children. Detective Santos explained to the team. He would sit in his car near the elementary school and the local park just watching. She thought it was strange but didn't report it because he wasn't technically doing anything illegal. Janet Williams agreed to meet with police immediately. She described a man in his 40s, average height, who drove a dark blue sedan. She had noticed him because he would stay parked in the same spots for hours, always watching when children were playing. "I saw him talking to a little girl at the park about 2 weeks ago," Janet told Detective Santos. "She had dark hair and pigtails, kind of like the missing girl I saw on the news. I almost went over to check on her, but then my phone rang, and by the time I finished the call, both the man and the girl were gone." This description matched Emma perfectly. Sarah confirmed that Emma often wore her hair in pigtails and had been playing at that park regularly for months. The pieces of a terrifying puzzle were starting to come together. The FBI immediately issued an Amber Alert with the description of the dark blue sedan and the partial license plate number that Janet Williams had managed to remember. Every police officer in a 100-mile radius was now looking for this vehicle. At the same time, investigators were going through security footage from every business and traffic camera in the area, looking for any sign of a dark blue sedan on the morning Emma disappeared. As midnight approached, marking the end of Emma's 7th birthday, Sarah finally broke down completely. The day she had planned to be filled with laughter, cake, and presents had become a nightmare of police interviews, search teams, and the horrible possibility that someone had taken her daughter. Mrs. Johnson held Sarah as she sobbed, both women staring at the untouched birthday cake on the kitchen counter. 7 small candles sat unlit on top of the pink frosting, waiting for a birthday wish that might never be made. Outside, the search continued through the night, with volunteers using flashlights and emergency vehicles patrolling every road. Somewhere in the darkness, a little girl was spending her birthday away from home, and everyone who loved her was fighting against time to bring her back safely. The second day of the search began before dawn, with hundreds of volunteers gathering at the community center. Word had spread through social media, and people were driving from neighboring towns to help look for Emma. Sarah was amazed and grateful to see so many strangers willing to spend their time searching for her daughter. At 6:15 a.m., The breakthrough everyone had been praying for finally came. A gas station attendant in a town 30 miles away called the police tip line. He had seen the Amber Alert and remembered something from the previous morning that now seemed important. A man in a dark blue car stopped for gas around 7 a.m. yesterday, the attendant told Officer Chen over the phone. He seemed really nervous, kept looking around like he was worried about something. But what made me remember him was that I heard a child crying in the back seat. The attendant had the gas station's security footage ready when police arrived. The video clearly showed a dark blue sedan matching the description from the Amber Alert. More importantly, it captured a partial license plate number that was immediately run through the police database. Detective Santos felt her pulse quicken when the results came back. The car was registered to a man named Robert Hayes, age 42, with a criminal history that made everyone's blood run cold. He had been arrested twice for approaching children inappropriately, though charges had been dropped both times due to lack of evidence. Robert Hayes lived in a mobile home park about 40 miles from Sarah's neighborhood. FBI agents and local police immediately surrounded his address, preparing for what they hoped would be Emma's rescue. But when they broke down the door of Hayes's mobile home, they found it empty. The place looked like someone had left in a hurry. Clothes were scattered around. Dishes were left dirty in the sink, and most tellingly, there were children's drawings taped to the refrigerator that definitely hadn't been drawn by an adult. Detective Santos examined the drawings carefully. One showed a stick figure of a little girl with dark hair standing next to a larger figure. At the bottom, in a child's handwriting, were the words, "My new friend." The drawing was signed with an E in purple crayon. Sarah was brought to identify the drawing, and she immediately recognized Emma's artwork. She always signs her drawings with a purple crayon, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. That's definitely Emma's handwriting. The FBI technical team found even more disturbing evidence on Hayes's computer. He had been researching information about Emma's school, the neighborhood park, and even Sarah's work schedule. Browser history showed he had been planning this for weeks, carefully studying Emma's routine and learning when she would be most vulnerable. But the most chilling discovery was a folder of photographs on his computer. Pictures of Emma playing at the park, walking to school, and even sitting in her own backyard. Hayes had been stalking Emma for over a month and no one had noticed. Detective Santos coordinated with multiple law enforcement agencies to track Hayes's movements. Credit card records showed he had bought gas and food at various locations, creating a trail that seemed to be heading toward the Canadian border. At 2:30 p.m., a highway patrol officer spotted the dark blue sedan at a rest stop about 60 miles from the border. Officer Patricia Williams approached the vehicle carefully, her heart pounding as she saw a small figure in the back seat. Emma was alive, but she was scared and confused. She had been crying and asking for her mother for hours. Hayes had told her they were going on a special birthday adventure. But when Emma realized she wasn't going home, she had become increasingly frightened. Officer Williams kept her voice calm and gentle as she approached the car. "Hi, Emma, my name is Officer Williams. Your mom is looking for you and she's very worried. Are you okay, sweetheart?" Emma's face lit up when she heard her mother's name. "I want to go home. He said we were going to have a birthday party, but I want my mommy." Hayes tried to run when he saw the police cars surrounding the rest stop, but he was quickly tackled and arrested. As he was handcuffed, Emma asked Officer Williams the question that broke everyone's heart. "Is my birthday party still waiting for me?" The ambulance crew checked Emma thoroughly and found that while she was frightened and hungry, she hadn't been physically harmed. Hayes had apparently been trying to convince her that he was taking her to a special birthday celebration. But Emma had become increasingly suspicious when they kept driving farther away from her home. Detective Santos called Sarah with the news everyone had been praying for. "Sarah, we found her. Emma is safe, and we're bringing her home to you right now." Sarah collapsed to her knees in her living room, surrounded by the birthday decorations that had been hanging there for 2 days. After 36 hours of the worst nightmare any parent could imagine, her daughter was coming home. The drive back to Emma's neighborhood felt like the longest hour of Sarah's life, even though she knew Emma was safe. When the police car finally pulled up to her house, Sarah ran outside before it had even stopped moving. Emma jumped out of the car and ran straight into her mother's arms, both of them crying and holding each other tightly. "Mommy, I'm sorry I left. The man said he had a birthday surprise for me, but I just wanted to come home." As Sarah held her daughter, She looked up at the police officers who had worked tirelessly to bring Emma back. Detective Santos smiled, wiping tears from her own eyes. After so many cases that didn't end well, seeing a child safely returned to her mother reminded her why she chose this difficult job. 3 days after Emma's 7th birthday, Sarah finally felt ready to celebrate. The original birthday cake had been thrown away after sitting untouched for 2 days, but Mrs. Johnson had quietly baked a new one while Emma was getting checked at the hospital. Emma was physically unharmed but emotionally shaken by her experience. She had nightmares the first 2 nights back home and refused to let Sarah out of her sight. Child psychologists explained that this was normal after what Emma had been through, and with time and support, she would heal from the trauma. Detective Santos visited Sarah and Emma to explain what had happened and what would come next. Robert Hayes was being charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and several other serious crimes. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and he would likely spend many years in prison. "Emma, I want you to know that what happened wasn't your fault," Detective Santos told the little girl gently. "Adults are supposed to keep children safe, not trick them or take them away from their families. You were very brave, and you helped us catch someone who was doing something very wrong." Emma listened carefully, still sitting close to her mother on the couch. "He said he was my friend from the park. He said he had a special birthday party for me with lots of presents. But when we kept driving and driving, I got scared because I just wanted my mommy." The investigation revealed that Hayes had been approaching Emma at the park for several weeks, gradually building her trust. He had given her small gifts and told her stories, presenting himself as a kind adult who wanted to be her friend. Emma, being a trusting 7-year-old, had no way of knowing that this was how predators often operate. Sarah felt guilty for not noticing what was happening, but Detective Santos reassured her that Hayes had been very careful and manipulative. He chose times when you weren't watching from the kitchen window, and he was skilled at making himself seem harmless. You're not responsible for his actions. The case also led to important changes in the neighborhood. The community organized safety meetings to teach parents and children about stranger danger. The park where Emma had been approached got additional security cameras and better lighting. Parents began coordinating more carefully so children were rarely playing alone. Emma's school counselor worked with her to process what had happened and help her feel safe again. Slowly, Emma began to return to her normal activities, though she stayed much closer to home and was more cautious around people she didn't know well. On the Saturday following her birthday, Sarah decided it was time for a proper celebration. She invited Emma's closest friends and their families for a small party in their backyard, where Sarah could keep a close eye on everyone. Mrs. Johnson helped with the decorations, and the whole neighborhood seemed to come together to show Emma how much they cared about her. When it came time to blow out the candles on her new birthday cake, Emma made a wish that brought tears to every adult's eyes. "I wish that no other kids have to be scared like I was," she announced after blowing out all 7 candles in one breath. The party was exactly what Emma needed. She laughed with her friends, played games in the safety of her own backyard, and finally got to open the presents that had been waiting for her. The joy on her face reminded Sarah of how precious and fragile childhood innocence really is. Officer Rodriguez, who had become personally invested in Emma's case, stopped by the party to check on how Emma was doing. She brought a special gift, a whistle on a bright pink lanyard that Emma could wear if she ever felt unsafe. "This is your superhero whistle," Officer Rodriguez explained. "If anyone ever makes you feel scared or tries to trick you, you blow this whistle as loud as you can, and help will come running." Emma wore the whistle proudly and promised to remember all the safety rules the police officers had taught her. She learned about trusted adults, about never going anywhere with someone without her mother's permission, and about the difference between safe surprises and tricks that could hurt her. As the sun set on Emma's 2nd birthday celebration of the year, Sarah tucked her daughter into bed and read her favorite story. Emma was finally starting to seem like herself again, though Sarah knew it would take time for both of them to fully heal from the experience. "Mommy," Emma said as Sarah turned off the bedside light, "I'm glad I'm home, and I'm glad all those police officers and nice people helped find me." "Me too, sweetheart," Sarah replied, kissing Emma's forehead. "And you know what? You're never going to have to worry about something like that happening again, because now we know how to be even safer." The birthday that had started in silence and fear had ended with love, community support, and important lessons learned. Emma was home where she belonged, surrounded by people who would do anything to protect her. And in a prison cell 60 miles away, Robert Hayes would have plenty of time to think about the consequences of trying to steal a child's innocence and a mother's peace of mind. The K-9 officers, Rex and Luna, received special recognition for their role in the investigation. Their ability to track Emma's scent had been crucial in confirming she had left through the front door and had made it to the park, providing the timeline that helped solve the case. Most importantly, Emma was safe, and her community had learned valuable lessons about protecting their children while still allowing them to experience the joy and freedom that every child deserves.